to The Straight Stitch, a podcast about sewing and other fiber arts. This is episode 92, and my name is Janet Szabo. I'll be your guide as we explore all things sewing. This week's episode is an interview with the owner of the quilt store where I teach. The store is called the Quilt Gallery, and the owner's name is Marianne Buller. It's a little longer than normal, so I'm going to keep the intro and the updates to a minimum this week and just let you know that I have been puttering around with lots of projects, getting some things finished up, making some class samples, and I'll be telling you more about those projects in the coming weeks. I also want to thank those of you who've been sending questions for the listener episode, which will be the 100th episode in a few weeks, and I have gotten some great questions, so thank you for that. My social media guru put out a poll on Instagram last week. We're trying to find out if people would be interested in getting a quick email blast when a new blog post or a podcast episode goes up. So if you haven't seen that, go to Instagram or shoot me an email or make a comment on the show notes page. Anything that just lets us know what you would prefer. And I think that's about it for this week's updates. As I said, this week's episode is an interview with Marianne Buller, who is the owner of the Quilt Gallery here in Kalispell, Montana. This is the store where I teach. Marianne is a Bernina dealer, and her enthusiasm for machines and fabric and teaching sewists what they need to know is a large part of the reason why her store is so successful. And I thought it would be great to sit down with her for a little bit and talk to her about how she got started as a quilt store owner. I always find those kinds of stories fascinating. We are both a little on the busy side, and it took us a couple of months to coordinate our schedules, but we finally did it this past week. The audio isn't quite up to my usual standards because we were recording in Marianne's office, and every so often you'll hear the hum of the air conditioner in the background, but you should be able to hear both of us pretty clearly. So without further ado, my interview with Marianne Buller. I'm here with Marianne Buller, who owns the Quilt Gallery in Kalispell, Montana. And that's the store where I teach. And I am also happy to claim Marianne as a friend of mine. So we're going to talk to Marianne today and find out what it's like to be a quilt store owner. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. And hello. I just love to hear people say that I have customers and my customers are my friends.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I just so believe in that. I just love it. I'm so
wonderful. There will probably be a lot of giggling during this podcast just because we're having fun with it. So, tell me how you ended up owning a quilt store.
It was by surprise, kind of. So I worked at a previous store locally, and when I began to quilt there, I had a whole history prior to. So my mother-in-law, whom I loved very much, and I've lost her to Alzheimer's, used to tie baby blankets, and that was the old-fashioned, lay the fabric down, put the batting on, put the top on, tie it, and then you could put your binding on. And she did that for some grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and I just was so excited about that. I'm like, I want to help, so she taught me to do it. So I got a frame, and I started doing that, and she just really saw in me that I enjoyed what we did. And she saw a college education class with Juanita Roth back in the day.
Oh my goodness.
I know, right? She was lovely. And it was about hand piecing and hand quilting. And so we went to the class and I learned how to do this project and we made a pillow. And then after we finished our pillow, we could pick another project and start, another quilt. So we did that. And I did my pillow and I finished my first quilt. Then I went over to visit her one day and she's like, I can't do this. I don't want to do this anymore. And she just was done with it. She was really frustrated. And I'm like, oh, I think we should finish that. And so I grabbed all of those pieces and scraps and got them all organized. And I finished it. And then I made one for each of my children, all hand pieced and hand quilted. And if you ever get into our tech room, you'll see it hanging on the wall there. That was our technician's, who's also my son Ryan, and I love him very much. And so so I did that, and then I just kind of, because of the work that I did, needed something to be faster because I couldn't make those quilts fast enough to get them done. I mean, hand piecing takes quite a while, and especially hand quilting. So I went up to the local Costco and bought me a cheap little brother, and I just need to find out if I'm even going to like this. I didn't want to spend a lot of money, and I started making quilt tops, and I made, I don't know, 3 maybe-ish quilt tops with that, and really, really quickly acknowledged that I needed something better because I could never get a straight stitch, right? I loved it. But it couldn't sew a straight stitch to save myself. So as I'm working with my husband, mentioned that, I might need to get another machine because this one it's just not right for me. And so during all of that time, I didn't know that quilt stores existed. I was like, what? And I was in Joann's, and some gal's like, well, you could maybe even get some help. We're just having this great conversation, who, by the way, was Bonnie Costin. And she's a fabulous, fabulous quilter in our area. And she was telling me about quilt stores. And so I was like, oh, so I, of course, looked them up. And I, lo and behold, drove by one every day from work. Now, mind you, I'm a construction worker at that time, and I was in my 20s. And so I'd go work all day, stop at the quilt store, boots and half my clothes would come off, and I'd go busting in there, and I would look for fabric and stuff, and then I'd run back out and go pick up the kids from school after work. And so I only had just a few minutes time, and that's where I discovered batiks, by the way. Batiks, oh my gosh, they're my jam. So anyway, and then I go back. Well, during all of that conversation, which wasn't a lot, the manager, her name was Connie, and she's like, what do you do for a living? And I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to tell her. I was pretty embarrassed. And I'm like, I pack concrete forms for a living. And she's like, really? And I'm like, yeah. And she goes, have you ever thought about going to work at a quilt store? And I about cried. So she offered me a job, and she goes, if you get tired or don't want to do that anymore, come see us. And I was like, how about now? Give me 6 months. I have to have a little arm surgery, and then I'm ready to go. And I did. And they brought me in, and without any knowledge, and they just kind of put me under their wing of quilting, and off I ran. And I just loved it. And I think one of the biggest things that I love about it is I made so many friends. I was a construction worker, you don't have girlfriends in construction, so my closest friend was my mother-in-law. So that's how it all began.
That is such a cool story. I'm laughing because my husband owns a construction company and we do concrete.
Yeah.
So, but I would never carry 80-pound panels around. And I don't blame you one bit for ditching that to go work in a quilt store.
Yeah. Quilting is so much more fun.
So that was probably, 30 years ago-ish?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was in my 20s.
So how did you end up owning a store?
So from there, I worked for them a lot of years, and then I had a little break in between. And, several years, actually. I can't remember how many years. It was several years in between. And I still quilted the whole time. So I was making charity quilts and stuff like there's no tomorrow. And I started going down to the other quilt store, and Joan was the owner.
Right.
And she really just kind of started talking more about classes, and I was amazed, simply amazed by the things that she could do. And I just found the whole art aspects of that so impressive, and the education. So I took, she convinced me, she had to talk to me pretty hard about it. She convinced me to take a class with Lenore Crawford, who is an art quilter. And my mom's an artist. She's a painter, and she's extremely good. And when I say that, she'll paint a horse, and it looks like a horse. it has all the shadowing and all of that. So Lenore Crawford, when I looked at her quilt, had all of those qualities. And I'm like, I could do with fabric what my mom does on paint. It's just amazing to me. I didn't know that was a thing, right?
Right.
So I took this class with her, and I made my first one was a log cabin, and I won a ribbon at the quilt show. So anyway, in all of that, we just kept talking, and she's like, well, maybe you'll want to own a quilt store someday. And I'm like, well, I don't know. And I kind of checked into it, and man, you don't buy into something, a business, and it took a lot of money and a lot of loan and, some good down payment. And, but she had an accident, I'm going to say. I'm not going to go into detail about it. That's her story. But she had called me from the hospital and said, I think it's time that maybe you should buy the quilt store. And she goes, and we'll figure out a way. And I was more worried about her, because it was like, oh my gosh, I just thought it was so, like, I was so scared for her, because when they call you from a quilt shop or from a hospital,
right,
that it's not good.
Right.
So, but anyway, so I'm like, okay. And so she was gone for 3 months, basically. And I took over from that phone call and went, well, this is what's going to go on. And, and kind of scared the employees a whole lot because they didn't call them and they had no clue until I told them. So, I started working through it and started talking to the bank and talking to my freaked out husband, I mean, can't blame him. I kind of threw it at him and went, well, I think I'm going to do this. And it just kind of fell into place, maybe too easy, right? It was just right place, right time.
Right.
Sitting in a good place in my life. I've worked in quilt stores. I know what the work requires. Definitely some expectations that I didn't know about and some things that I was like, oh, wow, I never thought about all of this other stuff, but there's a lot to it. And I bought it. We closed in May of 2017.
But you had been self-employed.
Yes.
So you weren't walking into it completely idealistically.
No, I do have, I ran all the business aspects of our business. And
that makes a big difference.
Yeah. I keep a good watch on the checkbook, and how much we're spending and all of that, how much inventory. I knew all of that. I did have some college classes in business. Even though I didn't graduate, I had, enough knowledge.
Sure.
And that helped me a lot.
So when you bought the business, it was still in the old location.
Yeah. So that was on kind of going into town south of Kalispell. So the old address, actually the address was 1710 South Main Street. Yeah. And so we moved 3 and something miles past, which is now on Highway 2 South.
And you have added on twice to this new building.
Yeah. So the building, we weren't sure if we were going to want to buy the building that existed or if we should plan to move. And I wasn't, because all of that was still so much up in the air. I'm a pre-planner and I don't want to have to second guess if I have to move this location. And so in communicating with my husband, we bought a building lot. It was a little bit farther out of town than I wanted, but still worth the main traffic, easy to be seen. And it had actually was sold already. And my husband goes driving by it one day, and there's a guy on it, and he's shoving a sign back into the ground, and he stops, and he's like, what are you doing? And he goes, I thought this lot was sold. And he says, well, it was, but it fell through. And he looked at the guy, and he goes, I'll take it.
Oh, wow.
Sold it, bought it that moment. He's like, signed a contract right there. Because it's really hard to get property here. And,
right.
And it's just, but it was just like everything just kind of flowed. And he found this lot. And then, we still kind of tried. Now, we're in construction, right? So this is not unusual for this to happen. So we negotiated on the other building. It just wasn't really, I don't think, the right thing. And so he built this building. And we were in it. Oh gosh, by Christmas of 2019, I started moving, and that was a chore, and I'm going to talk about that, but wow, I never want to move it again. And so we got our classes all set up, and I realized in short order that our classroom was like part of our retail space. It was really loud, and it was kind of fun because I could be part of the group in that sewing in the back, but it was just too distracting. I just had planned on being just a little old quilt store and cutting fabric for my friends. So when we added on this big classroom, it really changed things about the quilt store, and it became more serious because it's a good amount of money to build. But what it offered us is large capacity classes. So we can house up to 26 people in our new classroom. And that's unheard of, right? Most quilt stores you go into, there's like a spot for 5 to 6 people maybe. And for me, it was actually a priority for me because I have a lot of friends who quilt, and I want them all to come share and come sew and have a good time with us. And it's just been one of my best experiences ever, is having that classroom and my friends at it. I can't tell you how good that feels.
Your classroom is the classroom I judge all other classrooms by.
Oh, no.
Yes. It's the nicest one to teach in. It's got that big TV, and it's got the big cutting table. Yeah, it's set up really well.
Oh, good. Yeah. I give my husband all that credit because, again, he built that side, the west side of the building. And so he definitely had some foresight. Like, all of our power supplies are on the floor under our tables, and they're all centered, and we have each power supply has its own circuit, so like we can run so much power off of those that you'll never have a breaker break. And so it's pretty amazing.
And you just added on to the east side of the building.
We did. I know. I was so excited. I'm still working on it and getting everything moved. So yeah, very fast. We outgrew our area for our technician, and I didn't know I was gonna be that busy. Never expected to sell machines like I have, and it's just been such a blessing because who knew? Who knew? And I didn't know, and I'll talk about this a little bit more as I go through this, but because of the Bernina, and deciding to make a simple decision, I went to training and went, oh, I love these machines, right? And I hadn't sewn on them very much at that time. But what I learned in that, it was a tech training class, what I learned in that, I realized that our community was missing something. Right? Machines aren't simple. They're not hard to use, but there's a lot to it. And you have to know the what ins and what outs of being able to manage that to have good tension control and just have a happy experience. And I just kind of felt like we really needed that. So I kept Berninas, sold a bunch. Now we're servicing a lot of machines. And my technician's name is Ryan. He just outgrew it all. He outgrew it all. He is so busy. So we had our machines stored upstairs, and I kind of don't want to haul machines up and downstairs. And so Delmer decided that we would go ahead and add on that addition this year because we really hemmed and hawed about it because of expense. It's a huge expense to build now. But he decided it was probably better for my hips, and I don't break them falling down the stairs. So we added on, we have a receiving room, an official receiving room. It's lovely. And then Ryan gets more space. And he has his little room back there all set up and planned out so well. And it's amazing back there in his mind how he plans his things. Like if I need something planned, I ask Ryan. He is so good at it. And he's just set up there. And he's actually faster now because he has a good service room. And so it's been really awesome to have that for him.
And he has a window.
He said, I got a promotion. He was telling this to one of our customers, and I kind of looked at him funny, like, a promotion? I'm like, I didn't know you got a promotion. I'm going to go talk to Ashley. I don't know if you got a promotion. And he's like, yeah. He goes, I get a window. And I was like, okay, that works.
I love that this is a family business. So Delmer, your husband,
yes,
has done the building. And Ryan is the service tech. And Ashley, your daughter, just joined.
Yes.
Not too long ago. So she's the operations manager.
She is an operations manager and sometimes my boss, right? Ashley has and I'm going to give her a lot of credit. And so don't cry, Ashley, because you might cry a little bit. I love her so much, and she is so smart. And since she was a little kid, she just had this mind about her that was like business minded, right? She could hardly stand, and her and I are doing QuickBooks, right? She's doing my invoicing for me. And she's doing other things that's related to business. So her little fingers on our keyboard was amazing. And I go check it, and then we just send that off. So basically, she was working for free and getting a whole lot of experience, right, as a young child. So she goes into high school, and she's going through high school with all this business stuff, I'm going to call it, because it's way more than, she was in model and speech and debate. She went to nationals and all the clubs and stuff that she did with that school. And it was really amazing. Like, she was in speech and debate, the first kid in speech and the debate at Glacier High School that all went to nationals. So she was in nationals in all 4 of those years. And it's just impressive, right? So then she goes to college, and she's taking business in college, and I'll probably blow her major and say it wrong on what it is, but basically she has a major in business, finance, and accounting. And so she just has all the knowledge. And so when she decided that Bozeman wasn't the place for her, I am so overjoyed. I cannot tell you how overjoyed I was, because my stress level has dropped. I let her run as much as she's willing to take on, and she is so good at it. Like, our improved website, the videos, all of that is because of Ashley. A lot of the ordering now, like, I can actually prepare for events instead of having to go, oh, is that tomorrow? And, be able to make things better for the store and hopefully for our customers, which is the ultimate goal, right? And so I just can't say enough about her. She's been quilting with me since she was 4. Right? I literally had her piecing on my little baby brother machine since she was 4. So she pieced a lap-size quilt out of 6-inch squares and made herself her first quilt. So then, and I'm doing this with my granddaughter now too, right? So carry it forward. But so then we had taught her to do the binding, and she's, a few years going down the road, she learned to do more, but she's doing binding. And you know how great that is to have this little kid do your binding while you're quilting on a long arm, because at that time I had long arm. And we just had the best time together. She'd go to retreats as a little kid with us. And she'd sew and make these quilts, and she'd get bored for a while, and she'd grab her Harry Potter book, and down below the table she goes, and she'd read a book. And then we brought some friends. Her friend Miranda and my friend Connie, who is Miranda's mom, is Connie, went to retreats and did the same thing. It was the most lovely thing ever, have your girls go to a quilt retreat with you at that age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How cool.
Yeah. So it's just precious. Having the kids here is so precious, and our family be so involved. And I can't tell you how blessed I am because of that, and how much I just love the fact that they're really into this with me, And now Julia, my daughter-in-law,
right?
She's sewing. And yeah. And if you're a friend of mine, you're going to learn to quilt. That's how it is.
Ashley was our fearless leader at BU, which was great because that was my first trip to Bernina University, and I would have been lost without her. So the other thing that I think is really cool is Ashley is bringing in the younger crowd.
Yes.
Which is huge.
Yes.
And I get a little annoyed when people say to me, nobody sews anymore, nobody quilts anymore, and I'm like,
are you kidding?
Are you kidding?
Yeah.
Come with me.
Yeah. And that's it. So like having Ashley and Samantha and Megan that's worked with us, and if you really stop and look in quilt stores at who's coming, younger generations are coming to quilt stores. And they're there. They may not come to classes a lot because they are busy. They have families, and like I did. And so for those girls to take that on and just be like, let's have this sew day. So Tuesday night, once a month, it's the youngish, whatever that is for you, sew night. You have to be able to probably drive yourself here. I technically they can't kick me out, but I'm not sure I'm young enough to be there, right?
Right.
And so I hear that there's a party going on the next the youngish night sewing day, so it's on our website. which is quiltgallery.net, and then you go to classes and you can see what the girls are planning for the next grouping. So I think it was
so cool.
It's so cool. Yeah. I'm just tickled pink.
One of the things that I think you have done really well is the roster of classes that you have, because not only in terms of the different kinds of sewing and quilting classes, I'm everything. You run the whole gamut. And you have K Facet coming next month.
Yay! I'm so excited.
And Juicy Juice.
Yes.
And yes.
By And yeah, we have September's a month to be in Kalispell, let me tell you. So By Annie and Juicy Juice are coming in for a lecture. They'll be here September 2nd, I believe it's the day after Labor Day. And they're coming in just to talk about what they do. And I love the fact that, like, our teachers, so we have a lot of events. Let me finish that. We try to have events with Bernina, and we try to have national instructors come. We have an amazing group of local teachers, right? I mean, quilting in Kalispell is huge, and you are one of them, as you know. We're so lucky to have that kind of quality of education in our area. And also, it's about community. This quilt store really isn't about me at all. I mean, I'm lucky because I get to be the one that kind of participates in it, makes decisions and pays for it and stuff like that. I'm so lucky, but it's because of our community. And so I want a lot of teachers to come. I want to have those national instructors, because I don't know everything. I just want to have fun with it. I want to be the one going to the class, right? I'd love to be in your classes. And so it's community that makes us what we are. And it's just awesome.
That's so cool. I'm excited for By Annie and Juicy Juice, and especially K Facet.
Yeah.
That's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, I may have to call you to help me come set up or something.
Oh,
I know.
I will do that. I will happily do that. You have a lot of retreats too.
We do, yeah. So the first year I owned Quilt Gallery, we had a retreat in the fall, and we had one scheduled for spring. And it filled up. And we had a waiting list. So Janet is our class coordinator. Different Janet.
The other Janet.
The other Janet, we call her, yeah. And I called her and I'm like, I think that we probably ought to schedule another retreat because there's a lot of people on that waiting list. And she goes, I know. And so we did. We hosted another retreat.
Wow.
And it filled up. And we still had the same amount of people on the waiting list. Different people, but a huge amount. I'm like, wow, that's really awesome. And I love retreats. So let's do more. So we did more. So as we're building our retreats and we're adding all of these people, I started vending and hosting a total because I have other groups I vend for too, about 14 a year.
Wow.
Yeah, which is incredible. And so some of them that have asked me to come, I've not been able to get to because it's just timing. My schedule is so booked up now that it's really hard to do that many. And I do need to take time off.
Right.
As much as I love it, I need to take time off. And so I still do all of the same ones. I haven't dropped any. But it's getting more challenging because prices are going up and I really try to keep reasonable. But things just have to go up, So every year it seems like it always goes up a little bit for break even plus a little. And but it's been wonderful. Retreats are wonderful. And I have people that come into them and they're so nervous, right? If you have not been to one of my retreats, I'm like, no, just relax. Everything's good, But they're so nervous. And then something will bother somebody, right? And they're like, I don't know if I could do this. I'm like, you're just coming to sew, just come hang out. It'll be fine. And by the end of them, when I've had people even just kind of be a little bit snarky with each other, they end up becoming best friends. And that's the coolest thing ever. That's the coolest experience is when you have two people who don't think alike, have different viewpoints about a lot of things, and I don't do politics in my store at all.
Right.
And they become best friends. And how lucky am I that I got to see that and we got to participate, and I have seen that. I've seen in our store lots of best friends, and it's just amazing. And everybody's my best friend. So
because quilting and sewing is the common denominator.
It is, and it's social and just yeah, and it's just cool. It's been fun.
And you're involved with the Flathead Quilt Guild?
Yeah, so I've been a member of the Flathead Quilters Guild for probably, I'm going to say at least, wow, I bet almost 30 years too. 25, 30 years.
Wow.
I don't have that exact date. I'd have to ask. But I started, so Susan, previous owner of, or not previous owner, that owns Glacier Quilts, it was like, oh, you should come to a guild meeting. And I'm like, oh, okay, and I got roped into being secretary right away, right? And I was like, oh man, I don't know if I'm not a very good writer and I spell a lot of words wrong, but I did it. And I just kind of got into it, and all of the girls and guys in the guild, they just are great friends, and we've been participating with them for a long time. I don't get to spend as much time as I'd like, but we have great guilds here. There are actually 4 or 5 guilds in our area that are within a radius of about an hour drive. That's pretty amazing.
That is pretty amazing.
Explains how big our quilting is here,
right,
locally.
So I'm going to ask you, what have the challenges been?
Oh, yeah. Well, you don't go through things without having challenges and learning lessons, right?
Right.
And I will tell you that I'm truly not a manager. I'm a worker and I'm a doer. And when you have employees that you have to help you in a way that it doesn't, I need help. I can't do this store by myself, but I also have a hard time communicating that. And so the biggest challenge has been for me to let go of a lot of things and that how I think things should be, right? It's kind of like when you have kids in a way, because it may not be how I always want things, but sometimes it's better. And, you just got to trust that things get done. So my biggest lesson in that was when I had a mom who got sick and I had to take some time off, and I just basically dropped the store and left. And it was those girls, my staff, that kept the store running. And I wasn't around at all, right? And they just told me things are fine. And honestly, I didn't worry about it because we'd all been working together for quite a while. And but it was like, I'm such a micromanager, I think, maybe. And I don't want to ask them that because I'll all go, yes. But that was a lot to let go of, to just be like, okay, the store's fine. I can go home and take a day off. And so, because I don't take days off very often.
No, you're here.
Yeah. I worked 16 hours that first year. I bet almost all year, a day.
Wow.
Without days off. Because I felt like, and this is just a personal growth for me, like I had something to prove, right? For some reason, there's something inside of me that went, I can do this because I helped my husband do it. But, I don't know. I just felt like I wasn't judged. I don't know. I wouldn't say anyone was ever judging me, but I had to prove it to myself, I think. And so I really put my all in, and it was hard. I wouldn't probably do that again. That was hard, but it also allowed me a lot of experience in running the business and being able to get things done, and the whole getting the right technicians and keeping that all going well, and just there's a lot to do there. We had a lot to do, and so I since have been able to let that go. Also, let's see, challenges in the store. Customer service sometimes. How do you I love my customers, but sometimes I can't give them what they want, and I might not be the right person for that. And I have customers that get upset with me, and it's not intentional. It's about communication. And so sometimes I've had people who didn't want to talk to me, and I hadn't seen them for a long time. I had a gal come up and ask me, and she says, "Are we okay?" And I'm like, "Why aren't we okay?" I know this gal. I love her to death, right? I mean, we've talked lots, and she just was like, "Well, I just thought you were mad at me." And I'm like, "Why would I be mad at you?" She goes, "Well, I was da-da-da," and she had this thing, and I'm like, "I'm surprised you didn't come kick my butt." She thought I said something that felt rude to her, so I probably said it in the wrong way. And I'm like, I have no problem with my customers coming up to me and going, "I'm mad. I need to talk to you," because I get it. When I go talk to one of my friends because I'm mad, it hurts. but don't, come talk to me. I'm good. I'm easy. So,
Sure.
yeah, I love
Yeah.
everybody. And so, or to have to tell people no sometimes, that's hard. And so I do struggle with that even now. I don't like to say no ever. So I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And then I overbook myself like
Right.
today.
Was COVID a challenge?
COVID was scary is what it was. I mean, it was a lot of fear in what's going to happen with the business, right? First of all, when that started. And so I'm going to tell you kind of my story about it because it was such an important part of my time. So I got really sick pre-COVID, very sick. And I got over it, flu. And then the week that I recovered, had a friend call me, and this is when you're hearing about COVID in the news, and it was in New York. It was, I'm like, no big deal. So my friend calls me. She happens to be a nurse pandemic specialist, which I didn't know at the time. And she calls me and she says, so here's the thing. COVID is real. If anybody tells you it's not, it is. And I trust this woman with my life, right? I know her very well. And she goes, this is what you're going to do. I'm like, all right. And I have to apologize to the customers that were in the store that day. I stopped and I went, the reaction on my face, and my face probably went blank and turned white at that point. And there were quite a few people in the store. And she goes, you're going to start cutting fabric for masks. You're going to put all the fabric in a bag. You're going to take your little bags and you're going to put them outside the door. And people are going to come start making them. They don't have to come into the store. They can grab them and go and bring them back. And I'm like, okay, let's do this because, I'm community. I mean, I care about our community a lot. And so I was like on it. And she says, we will help you with some of the support that you need for purchasing fabric. So we started making mask kits, and we carry AccuQuilt cutter, and you couldn't get elastic, you couldn't get hardly anything for tying your masks. So the only thing we really had was fabric. So we took the Accu cutter with an 1.5 inch strip cutter, and we started cutting those strips for masks because we were going to have to sew them on. So we put those in the bags. And we sent those off, and then those masks would come back, and then we just kept refilling that bag. Now, the next day that gal called me, we shut down because the state shut everybody down. And what she did was probably one of the nicest gifts anybody's done. Because we were making masks, we were essential. And I got to stay open. Now, I didn't stay open, really. I didn't open for about 3 weeks because we needed to know, everything shut down. And it was really scary. Like, I would still come to work and come to the shop, and there was no traffic.
Right.
Stop at the grocery store. There was no people. And it was the quietest I'd ever seen it. It was just almost like an apocalypse because there's just nobody around. And this is not our world. And I was pretty freaked out about that. Going into the grocery store one time just to grab me some lunch. And there was like 3 people in the grocery store, and I come around a corner. This older gentleman with his mask on was on the other side of the building turning another corner, and he saw me and he about jumped 10 feet. Hi. And I was just like, it was at that time, it was like my realization in that was my job is to spread joy. Yes, this is hard. This is a hard thing, but we still can have joy. We can still have a sense of humor. When measles went around and chicken pox, and I got measles so bad, I got to tell you how bad that was. But, all of those things, we've gone through hard things before, but this was even more than that, it felt like. And I think that once I hit that attitude of let's spread joy, things started picking up for me again, and I could kind of refocus myself. So we got asked to make from one of the nursing homes masks and gowns, and we cut 1,500 masks and made them for the nursing home. And so I kept my staff busy through that. We made 1,500 gown kits, and we were cutting on template plastic, like all this stuff would come to me like, oh, we can't cut this by hand, everyone at singularly. And I'm like, so they went and got this template made through the college, and it was a template to cut the gowns, and we could cut like 4 to 6 layers with a rotary cutter.
Wow.
And we got those 1,500 whipped out, and then they had the community sew them, which was lovely.
Right, I remember that.
Yeah, and I don't know if they came out perfectly good or not, but it was surely, I mean, it's sewing, right? They don't have to be perfect to do the job they needed to do. We contracted for like 150 masks through a construction company out of California. So we shipped those, and then not including what we made ourselves, right? So community. So when we did all of those, we actually serged all of our ends of our masks. And if you can imagine 6 overlockers, you'd be so proud. You would be so proud. 6 overlockers serging all the edges so people could make masks. And we ran strings and strings and strings of those. It was impressive, you know. And Handy Quilter at the time came out with a template on the long arm, digitized to stitch the masks. Now, this was a while into it, right?
Right.
Yeah. So we didn't get to use it right off the get-go, but talk about an impressive thing. So like they digitized it. We ran that whole mask off the long arm and sewed them on the long arm. That was impressive. I'll tell you, mass production. I got a lesson in mass production. So when we finally started letting people in, we had our sale fabric, and I sold all of our old fabric for like $6 a yard. And our makers and our quilters would come in, and they'd get all that fabric, and I just whipped that out like there was no tomorrow. And I didn't think twice about it, you know, because it's people helping people. And we were scared. Right. You know, we didn't know what was going to happen, you know. And so it gave us something to do. But I think that community experience was such a blessing. I mean, it's such a great experience to be able to, you know, help our community to, you know, not second guess. Like it's people first, then money, right? People are first. And so we got to help a lot of people in our community. 1,500 gowns, 1,500 masks, probably around 500 that people had paid for, you know, businesses and stuff. But we cut 10,000 mask kits.
Wow.
That's what I'm proud of.
Wow.
Our staff and our community working together in short order did 10,000 masks for our hospital.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it really was. And I don't care what your opinion is about COVID. I don't care about the politics of any of it.
Right.
But it brought us together as a group.
Exactly.
And I just love that. And so it's, you know, it's just an incredible experience. So a lot of people died, and I'm really sad. You know, that's a hard thing.
Right.
But I'm just so happy that we got to help in some way.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't know that.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Yeah. It was.
That kind of blows me away.
Yeah. I used to cry about it, actually.
Yeah, I bet.
You know, because we were scared, you know, in our families. And, and I always have had a rule, and I still have this rule, that if you're an employee or staff member or a friend and you're sick, don't come.
Right.
Right? Just don't come, because I don't do well when I get sick anyway. And, you know, I know Ashley doesn't, and, you know, nobody does. And so we just ask that you to, you know, keep your germs at home if you're, you know, got a virus that'll make us sick.
Sure. Yeah.
And we have a lot of older people.
Exactly.
Yeah. We want to keep them healthy too.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. So do you think you'll keep doing this for a while?
Oh, I do. I'll probably do it until I'm 110 at least. You know, I always think like, oh, you know, I when I get frustrated sometimes, I'm like, oh, I could just sell the store. Right? I've had some times where it's been really hard. Last year I had way too much going on, you know, with family and with work, and just a lot. It was a lot. And if I'd ever wished that the store could be sold, it would have been that year. But I still love the store. It wasn't that I regretted getting the store. I don't. But it was just, I was overwhelmed. And people who know me know that what was going on in my life. And you know, they were just like, wow, you know, we're there with you. You know, everyone was with me, and I just am grateful. So, but no, I'm never selling the store. No. The kids, you know, if the kids take it over, whatever, that's great. I have a plan to retire, but it's not retiring from the store. It's maybe I work the floor less and sew more, you know, because I love to communicate.
It's fun because I've been part of conversations with your kids where they have come right out and they've said, we need to take over doing things so that mom can do what she loves.
Yeah.
So it's nice that they, first of all, that they recognize how much you're doing, but also that they want to take some of that burden away from you.
Yeah, and they have, actually. They have. So I'm so excited to say that I just recently have purchased my own long arm and have taken it to my house and have it set up, and I'm using it. You want to come see it?
Sure.
Okay. And I am getting more time. You know, I'm an early bird riser, so I get up at 5 o'clock and I run downstairs. And quilting, I'm not sure if I sewed a quilt or what that is about that, but without one, without the other, I can't do. I can't just be a sewer. You know, I love free motion quilting. It's just, I love it so much. And I like computerized quilting. It does a lot of more perfect things that I can do and designs and stuff. When I get on free motion and I get to create my own, that brings my heart rate to a really happy place. And I'm just so happy when I quilt free motion. So I can get creative. And my goal is to get more creative, right? I can start doing my thing. So I'm really grateful my kids want to take on more so I can do more. And it's starting to happen. I mean, if anything, they could tell me to go home more often probably. And I just tell them, no, I'm going to be here today. So, yeah.
I didn't know that you were also a fabric designer.
Oh, yeah, fabric. Oh my gosh. If I were younger, I'd be more of a fabric designer. So we do have some of our own exclusive designs. We have it's huckleberries. So I needed huckleberry fabric, and through Hoffman, we designed our fabric and started printing. That's been the best-selling fabric out of the store, hands down, of overall any fabric.
I should tell people who aren't familiar that huckleberries are treasures in Montana, and they're almost a form of currency.
Yeah, they're kind of like gold.
Yeah, they are kind of like
gold. And they're
gold.
Tasty too. And so we treasure our huckleberries.
Yes,
and
definitely.
If you're from Montana, or if you're traveling through Montana, you find out in short order huckleberries what they are. And it's just a design and a type of, anything huckleberries. We have huckleberry jam and huckleberry syrup and chocolate huckleberry something. And now we have fabric with huckleberries. And so we've used that a lot in our designs. And actually what really made our huckleberry fabric quite popular was at the beginning of 2020, I think it was, got a call from Better Homes and Gardens Quilt Sampler magazine. And the gal there's like so nice. And she's like, so this is, and she explained who she was. And she's like, we want you to be in our magazine. And I'm like, oh, and I'm like, I get that cold call, like go away kind of thing going. And I'm like, so I can't afford to be in your magazine. Advertising in magazines is too expensive. And she goes, and she has this Texas kind of accent. She goes, oh no, honey, you don't understand. She says, we want you to be in the magazine as one of our top 10 shops, and it is free. I about fell over. I was like, you're kidding. And she's like, no. And she had told me how all of that happened, and Joan had sold the store. Joan had been in like their first edition.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
And so then, they were doing this, and then they're like, we want you to be in it too. And she goes, I've been on, checking your store out. And she goes, you have an amazing store. And, of course, I'm just tickled pink, and I'm telling all this cool stuff that we're doing. And it was great. It was great. So we designed, Connie, who used to work with me, she designed and helped me design, because I'm not a pattern writer. We wrote a pattern called Huckleberry Lemonade, and it's in that magazine. And so it had all these huckleberries and these really cute bear paw blocks, and it's kind of like a table topper size, which you can make it larger, but for that. And then there's placemats you could do with it and stuff. But that magazine, I've never sold so many kits as that. So people would call us up from all over the place and ask for the huckleberry kits, and we'd sell those online and stuff. It was amazing. It was truly an amazing experience. And so with the huckleberry fabric, then I can't tell you how many bolts of huckleberry fabric we have sold because of that. And just people coming in, they hear about it,
Oh, sure.
So along with the huckleberries, then the next Hoffman print we did was bear grass, because bear grass is truly probably my most favorite flower ever. And they're just like to describe it, they're like a lilac on a stick. That's what they are. They look like a lilac on a stick. Great big flower. And we used to be up in the mountains, and they'd all be growing everywhere and stuff. So that was, I just love them. Anyway, then we have also Montana Memories. Now, I didn't design Montana Memories. It is a Quilt Gallery fabric. Joan actually is the one who designed that, and people, don't always understand that. But it is also exclusive to our store. And so it has bear grass, huckleberries, it has the bitterroot flower, and the pine cone. And then after all of that, I came up with our glacier fabric, and I call it glacier, well, different colors, but glacier whatever. We have colors for it. And that fabric is just blows me out of the water, And I will say it probably does sell better than the huckleberry fabric, because it's got pictures of Glacier Park with bear. It's got the words glacier. Now, my dad is a railroader. He started railroading when he was 18, and he retired and died, and that was the only job he ever had in his life.
Wow.
In Whitefish.
Wow.
So being a amateur photographer, getting to push trains up over Essex and through Glacier Park, he would take his camera, and the engineers on that train, they'd see bears, and my dad would go, "Stop, there's a bear." And they'd stop for my dad to take fish. Now, he probably would have gotten fired for all this, right? But now those guys are all retired, so I can tell on them all. They would stop the train and back it up in the middle of winter so my dad could get a picture. That's not supposed to happen when you're working on the railroad. Right? And so I have so many pictures of Glacier Park where you guys, most people, can't get, because he's in the middle of the forest on the railroad tracks.
Wow.
And it's just impressive. So the little emblem on our fabric has a goat with a little circle around it, which technically is probably a Glacier Park sort of emblem. But that's to remember my dad. That was for my dad. And so it also has huckleberries on it, and mountains and bears and
that's
different
very
things.
cool.
Yeah, so that was fun to design. So that's a batik, and we always get them in different colors every year.
I snagged a yard of that when the bolt came in.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the best color range that we had a really beautiful green. It was a kind of a dark green background with a teal on the inside, and I didn't remember to write the number down. Whoops. And I don't have a number, because I would love to keep that one coming in. It was so beautiful. But the other ones have done extremely well. The pink or the blue and red one.
Right, yeah.
Because I let Ashley and Samantha pick the colors this last year. Because I've ordered so much fabric and planned stuff. But when they picked their colors, that pink or that blue and pink red one, I was like, I don't know how that one's going to do. It is not my favorite one. And it's lovely. Like, do aprons and bags, and there's all kinds of stuff, and it's done really well. I have a couple gals that do markets, and they buy those for aprons, and they're like hands down their best-selling fabric ever. And it's been such a good fun time to be able to share that. And they're always we always tell people where to go get it, so it's kind of fun.
Yeah, I'll put a link to the website so that if people want to order some.
Thank you. They can go to quiltgallery.net.
Yes.
And they can type in the word glacier actually on the search engine without having to go to shop. And they can pick it up there. They can go to shop and see all the projects and everything that's in our store. And we're building on it. We just redid our website this last year, so we're still getting more into it. But there's a lot in there. And so you can see all the classes and all the good stuff about our store in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've talked for almost an hour.
Oh my gosh. So you're going to edit. I told you it'd be enough for at least 2 shows.
Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you want to talk about?
Oh, I could talk forever. We could do this every day.
Because we haven't talked about machines.
No,
we haven't.
I know. I knew we would. See, that's why I could never decide. Like, what do I talk about? I can't rein one thing in. My head travels too far.
Right.
Too fast. So we can do it again someday.
Okay.
Yeah, I would love that.
Well, thank
And
you.
you get to visit. Thank you so much.
I'm going to wrap this up quickly here so that we'll be under an hour. If your travels ever bring you to Montana, I hope you'll stop into the store and take a look at all of the great things that the Quilt Gallery has to offer. As always, I appreciate feedback. You can send me email to janet@janetzabo.com. You can use the fan mail feature, leave a comment on the show notes page. I do try to answer everything. I might not, especially this time of year when things are getting a little nuts with canning and harvesting. I might not get back to you right away, but I will respond. The show notes can be found at the podcast website, which is www.thestraightstitchpodcast.com. My website is www.janetzabo.com with links to my Big Sky Knitting Designs website and to my blog where I post pictures of all the things that I've been working on. So if you want to see what I've been sewing, that's the place to go. So until next time, I hope you have a great week and that you get to go sew something.